No, I was muted there. So let's redo that. My producer Andrew failing. So let's dive in and let's start with the news of the day as Trey Waynes gets placed on injured reserve. And if you're new to the channel, what's up and welcome in. This is Cincinnati Bengals talk, and hit that subscribe button because we're going to be doing these live chats regularly. And what we want to do is be able to answer your questions, react to a bunch of the news, which, obviously just came down, which is kind of cool because this is the first time we've gone live where there's been news to talk about that was passed down like 10 minutes ago. And so hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and we'll get to your questions in a bit. We got Joe Burrow, we got some Jamar Chase stuff, but let's start with Trey Waynes because he was placed on injured reserve about 10 minutes ago. And if you're just joining us, you might have just found out that news, and it's brutal. It's brutal because he's only played in 2 games in a year plus. Who knows when he's activated off of injured reserve? What we do know is he's going to miss at least 3 games. And so the pectoral injury last year, this year you had the hamstring injury that he suffered towards the end of training camp and misses the first 3 weeks of the season. It's just brutal. And as far as the secondary goes, I think he's certainly better than what they're going to have. You're going to see more Eli Apple. You're going to see more Darius Phillips. But it isn't just that. When you're spending the amount of resources that the Bengals are on Trey Waynes, they signed him to a 3-year, $42 million deal, and you get 2 games out of him, and you're not sure when he's going to come back, and it's been one injury after another, it's just backbreaking. And I know this defense is great, and Waynes isn't the number 1 corner on this team. He's not. It's Chidobe Awuzie. We saw that against Davante Adams. Who was shadowing him? It was number 22, not number 26, number 22. So it's Awuzie. And I know some of you are going to ask, well, why don't they cut him? Well, they're not going to cut him in season. Basically, if they cut him now, they would still have to pay him his entire base salary, his entire salary, really, for the 2021 season. I looked it up, what was it, last week with the Stephon Gilmore stuff, because I know some of you were interested in Gilmore, and rightfully so. And we did a video about that on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, by the way, explaining why it probably wouldn't happen. But as far as Waynes goes, this offseason, definitely a cut candidate. And what he needs to do to stay around for 2022 is get healthy, maybe come back after 3 weeks. So he'll miss week 6, 7, and 8. So the 3-game road trip, he's eligible to return against the Browns week 9 when the Bengals return home to take on Cleveland. And so if he's out there then and then plays well from then through the end of the year, I could see Wayne sticking around. But outside of that, the Bengals, they would incur a $5 million cap hit if they release him this offseason. And that is probably the most likely scenario right now. And it's just life for a guy like Waynes who hasn't been able to stay healthy. And so it's unfortunate. The good news is the Bengals, they're used to having or life without him. If there's a glass half full approach that you want to take. But yeah, no Trey Waynes. Never going to see this secondary as a whole. It doesn't seem like, right? Good news is, I guess, if there is good news, Jesse Bates is okay. I know someone just mentioned Jesse Bates. So yeah, it does sting a bit though to not be able to see Waynes with Awuzie, Mike Hilton, these 3 free agent corners they've added over the past 2 off seasons to really revamp the secondary. And I think they could be really good, even if Waynes is the number 2. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to see that anytime soon. Let's dive in, and we'll get to some of your questions coming up. So just throw them in the chat if you want to, or if you have a question. One other thing that happened today, and I wrote about this at allbengals.com. You can watch the clip there, but don't leave our live chat. Aaron Rodgers goes on the Pat McAfee show and just praises Joe Burrow, right? He's going to be great in this league, but I offered him one piece of advice: slide. And I think that's something we can all agree on, right? Is you want to see Joe Burrow slide. But I rewatched that hit in the second quarter that he took on Sunday. And I do wonder, and Zac Taylor kind of referenced this in his news conference on Monday, I wonder if Burrow saw the safety bearing down on him, because it came out of nowhere. You're looking downfield and the safety comes from this way. He might not have even seen it. And it was obviously a huge hit and brutal. But yeah, slide. And that's great advice from Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully Joe Burrow listens. I asked Jamar Chase, I was like, because Burrow didn't slide much at LSU either. And I remember that being kind of a small topic during the draft process. Like, you better learn to slide. And Jamar Chase said he is, comfortable sliding. He just doesn't like to do it because he's hard-headed. And so that's something that either the NFL or the Bengals, one of the two, hopefully the Bengals before the NFL does, knocks that habit out of Burrow. And, if he slides and he stays on the field, I think he's, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And the Packers came away with that takeaway as well on Sunday. And think about it. That wasn't one of Joe Burrow's best performances, but Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer said, oh yeah, the Packers brass behind the scenes, they were really impressed. And I'm paraphrasing, but really impressed with Burrow in just how he carried himself and how he played in what he did against them. And so slide. It's that simple. It is that simple. One more thing here, and then we will get to your questions, because I know our editor, producer, whatever you want to call him, my guy Andrew Miller is going to yell at me if I go over on time. These first couple we went over on time, and so I need to be strict to it. And in my Simpsons hoodie, need to make sure I get to all of your questions. And as he said, "Oh yeah, okay, turn them against me." Yeah, Andrew, I'm blaming you for our time constraints on this wonderful, gorgeous Tuesday afternoon. The other thing is, and I might do a video on this later this week. Jamar Chase was the right pick. There's still some offensive line people that are going to be like, oh my gosh, do you see how many hits Joe Burrow's taking? And they're not wrong. I don't think the Bengals offensive line is good. I don't think it's a strength. Okay, I don't. But that doesn't mean the Bengals didn't get it right with the 5th pick. Jamar Chase is putting up historical numbers. He's on pace for 1,500 plus receiving yards, 17 touchdowns on 78 receptions. He's been dynamite. So the Bengals got it right. And later this week, especially with Penei Sewell in Detroit, right? He was the 7th pick. And we'll see if Sewell plays this week. I believe he is. He's been dinged up and he got crushed. Everson Griffin got the best of him last week against the Vikings. But if Sewell plays, and I think he will, then we'll see it, even though they won't be head-to-head, but we'll see it. And I would be shocked if in another multiverse, right, where the Bengals pick Penei Sewell, if he had the impact, and he wouldn't, that Jamar Chase had. That's it. So for those that are still questioning it or anything like that, that's my kind of my 2 cents on Jamar Chase. He's literally, outside of Randy Moss, the only 21-year-old in NFL history to do what he's done. 400 plus yards receiving, 5 touchdowns in his first 5 games. What else do you need to say? What else do you need to see? Right? And so say that to the next time someone is like, oh, they should have taken the tackle. What the hell are the Bengals doing over there? Well, they're picking the right player with the 5th pick. Did they pick the right player at 46? I don't know. Did they take the right player at 5? They did. And that much we know. So without further ado, let's dive in. That's why we're here doing these live streams, so we can jump into your questions. I'm going to try to start at the top and slowly work my way down. We'll see if I can do that. Let's see here. All right. This, I'm just going to give a little credit for some love here. Look, we love you, bro. Hey, I love you too. I love you too. It's that simple. Let's get this red off of here. What the heck? We got a little red coloring. Oh, well, I guess we're just going to have to use the red today. Either way, I guess it kind of matches the red that Bart has there, and Maggie's binky and things like that. So either way, let's dive into your questions here. If you're here to ask questions, now's the time to get them in. All right. So we got a bunch of people making fun of Waynes, which I'm not shocked about at all, to be honest. Let's see here. All right, this team has potential. I don't know what happened with the play calling the last few plays over the defense. We'll go toe-to-toe with a lot of teams and hold the pack to 22. But, well, it was 25, but your point is a good one. And I do wonder when this offense is going to get to that next step, right? Is when this offense is going to be elite, because I wasn't expecting the Bengals defense to be elite. I was expecting the Bengals offense to potentially be elite. And I don't think the defense is, but you look at them, they're in the top 15 in a lot of categories. And I think they're good enough. And they played good enough on Sunday. And that's the thing, is The defense appears to be good enough, despite some flaws. Like they could use another edge rusher, right? They're banking on Trey Hendrickson to be their lone edge rusher. Cam Sample had some nice pressures early on Sunday. Sam Hubbard hasn't really given him much in that department. But on offense, where are all the points? I need points. You draft Jamar Chase to give you points, and he's doing his job. And that's the thing. If you would have told me 5 weeks into the season, the Bengals haven't topped the 30-point mark, Jamar Chase is putting up historical numbers, I would have been like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And so Zac Taylor, Brian Callahan and company, they have to figure it out. They do. And I get it. The offensive line wasn't great on Sunday against Green Bay, but especially early in the game, like the first 15 scripted plays, it's been a struggle. And Zac Taylor talked about it yesterday. You can hear his comments on my last video here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. It's like, what the hell is going on? And if this offense holds this team back, well, then that's a failure because you have an offensive-minded head coach who's calling the plays, right? You have I think a really good offensive coordinator in Brian Callahan. I think he's been around the league a long, long time. You've heard the name Callahan before. His dad's Bill Callahan. And so when you look at that and you mix that in with first overall pick Joe Burrow, 33rd overall pick T. Higgins, who was really, really good, second rounder in Tyler Boyd, who's gotten a second contract and one of the best slot receivers in the league, fifth overall pick in Jamar Chase, who's great. Second rounder in Joe Mixon, who was a top 10 talent in that draft and got a big contract. Like all these guys are great. And even if one is missing, they should still be able to overcome that because of the talent they have on offense. And they just haven't done it. And that needs to change starting this week in Detroit. Bengals favored by 3, according to the SI Sportsbook. They need to handle business. They need to handle business on offense and really get to that 30-point mark, I think, this Sunday, because that was my key last week. If they were going to beat the Packers, they needed to get the 30 points. And if they got the 30 points, they would have easily beaten them. And instead, they struggled out of the gate, punted on their first 2 drives, finally scored. And then it was slow until, Burrow and Chase go off script and save them at the end of that first half. All right, let's see here. Why do you think the offensive line has looked so stagnant? Jeremy asks. For me, or the offense has looked so stagnant. For me, it's a mix of conservative play calling and inconsistent online. I think it's a little bit of both. As far as the conservative play calling, I didn't like, Jeremy, the conservativeness at the end of the game, end of regulation, and in overtime. All right, so you have the ball 3rd and 5. Do you want the ball in Jamar Chase's hands or T. Higgins' hands or Tyler Boyd's hands? Obviously, it starts with Joe Burrow, or do you want to go to Samaje Perine? I guess I'm okay with Perine if it's a throw where he's open in the flat and you're going to get 6 or 7 yards. But having Evan McPherson is a luxury. I know he missed 2 kicks, but he's got such a strong leg that if you're going to attempt the 57-yarder anyway, I would much rather anything else other than a run that gets you 3 yards to get from a 60-yard field goal to a 57-yard field goal. A shot deep downfield to Chase, play action to CJ Uzama, anything like that. And I know there's some, well, what if he gets sacked? Well, if ifs were ifs, and I'm not going to say it, but my goodness, are you kidding? If he were to get sacked. Hey, Joe, don't get sacked on this play because you're going to knock us out of field goal range. Pretty simple. There you go. Now let's move forward. And by the way, the other thing was, I think people said, well, they wanted to make the Packers use their last timeout. Okay, well, that's fine if they want to use their last timeout, but a completed pass makes them use their last timeout. And whatever you're calling, and what I would have called is some kind of option route to Boyd, some kind of choice route where it's like, all right, go here or here. And I know that didn't work in overtime and Burrow made an awful throw, but I think it could have worked in that situation. Same thing goes for overtime. Chase makes that crazy catch, 21 yards, and it's just awesome catch, tap, tap. And it's like, oh, the Bengals, they're going to keep driving here. They're going to win the game. And I'm typing away at my lap, tap, 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 trying to get this game started. My dog's. Watch this. We're about to say hi to my dog. We're about to pull Bill Belichick. There we go. Everybody meet Finn. Since you heard him, I figured I would bring him on the live stream. He barks really loud, but look, he's a small dog. You want to sit up here while we talk? All right, he's sitting on my lap right now. We'll see if we'll make this work. Anyways, Andrew says Finn has more camera time than him. That is a fact, and deservedly so, because Finn's way cuter than Andrew. Anyways, I think when it comes to that, the 3 plays after the Jamar Chase 21-yard catch, if I were to tell you after that play that the Bengals weren't going to pass the ball again, and they were going to have to attempt a long field goal close to 50 yards, 49 yards, and not get the first down, you'd be like, wait, you're telling me Joe Burrow doesn't throw another ball in this game? And so that was my issue. So, yes, I do think conservative play calling was an issue at the end of that game. And I think that the key for them to really get going on offense is that first 15. Get off the quicker starts, because they're finishing strong. They're ending the first half strong usually on offense, but they need to find a way to get off the better start so there isn't so much pressure to score. So if Joe Burrow does throw an interception on the first drive of the second half when you're trying to grab some momentum, it's not the end of the world. All right, let's keep going here. Look at this. I still see them going 12-5 or 11-6 in playoff bound for sure. Maybe. There's certainly a chance that happens. And if they go either of those, that's enough to make the playoffs. Now, that being said, the AFC, you kind of count the teams, and 10 wins is the minimum. So if you want to talk, look at Finn trying to get a little camera time. 10 wins is the minimum. So if you won in the playoffs, I think 10's kind of the magical number. And that might mean different tiebreakers, which means AFC games specifically, huge, really important, and something to monitor. The good news is so far for the Bengals, who have they lost to? The Bears and the Packers, 2 NFC teams. So it shouldn't impact them too much when it comes to the playoffs as far as tiebreakers are concerned. Let's see here. All right. James, this is from Arnold. James, why does Zac refuse to use shifts on offense or misdirection plays? I think that this offense, and I'm not saying that Zac refuses that. I think that this offense has struggled to get acclimated to both things, right? They want to do the Joe Burrow empty stuff. Oh, Finn, you want to get down? You want to get down? All right, hold on. Finn's getting down. All right. Now, no more barking, okay? All right. We'll see if he barks anymore. Maybe if I bring up Zac Taylor again. Anyways, the empty stuff, right? Burrow likes that. Obviously, they can diagnose and things like that, but the offensive line isn't great. You can't just run it that way. And then they're implementing that along with the West Coast stuff and that wide zone, or not West Coast, wide zone running game and everything like that. And they're trying to bring it together and mix it together and find the perfect blend, and they haven't found it yet. And so that's kind of the issue for me that I see. And we'll see if they find it, because especially early in games, you would think that this team would be awesome, where it's scripted. This is the plan. This is what's going to happen. And boom, they're hitting the ground running. And if it was stagnant coming out of the half or stagnant in the third quarter, well, then the overall talent of the team can take over, which is what I think we've seen at the end of the first half, is like Jamar Chase is like, all right, throw me the damn ball. Let's go. And that's why they've been so good at the end of the first half. Well, the coaching and game plan, all that needs to catch up to it so they can be more consistent throughout 4 quarters. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Next question. What do you think about that 4th and 2 call to take the ball out of Burrow's hands and kick the 57-yarder at the end of regulation? I kind of mentioned it before, and I'm okay with attempting the 57-yarder. I would have attempted the 58-yarder earlier in the game, but my third down play would have been different. And if he would have said, we're going to go for it on 4th down, I would have been okay with it, but only if you're going to really try to get the first down on 3rd down. Like if you're still handing the ball off again and, saying, we're going to go for it on 4th and 2, well, I would rather you just take a shot on 3rd and 5 so you don't have to put yourself – because if you don't get that 4th down, then Aaron Rodgers is going to beat you and get in field goal range, which he did anyways because you missed the field goal, but you get my point. All right, let's see here. They still need to be more creative with the play calling. That's fair. I think that's a fair thing. I think that's something they need to consider is being more creative. And one thing that they haven't done just when it comes to Chase, he hasn't been utilized to his full potential yet, which is kind of scary since he's been so great deep down the field. But like, he got 10 targets for the first time in his career the other day. Well, the way he's playing is giving him the Devontae Adams treatment the way to go. It might be, hey, we're going to target you 16 times and just feed you. Now, once T. Higgins is healthy, and he didn't look, something was off with T, a couple drops, didn't look really in sync the other day. I think that might have been part of it too, as to why the offense was a bit down, struggling, whatever you want to say. But the 2 drops certainly didn't help because they both would have been first downs. Who calls the plays, Zach or Brian? Zach does. We know that. What position? Oh, a little draft question. Never too early for the draft. What position group should the Bengals use the first rounder on? Not a super deep class of offensive line. Yeah, well, the first things first, the Bengals, if they really want to get better on the offensive line, should pay offensive linemen. They should go out and get proven commodities, right? Riley Reef, you pay him. He's played pretty well so far, right? He's plugged that weakness. And if they had gotten a guard, the Riley Reef version of a right guard, I think the offensive line would be pretty good. If they had a backup plan for Trey Hopkins, who's still working his way back from that torn ACL, I mean, he's no different than Billy Price would have been right now, but certainly a weakness is that right guard spot and that center spot. So, yeah, they could go offensive line in the first round. I could see them going corner in the first round. I could see them going edge in the first round. There's a lot of options there as far as that goes. Do you think they can improve in the trenches? Yeah, I do. And the key to that, one, is Trey Hopkins getting more comfortable post ACL. And it's hard. Like, it's hard to come back. Think about it. He tore his ACL in January against the Ravens, had surgery, went through rehab. He's still, rehab strengthening that knee, but went through rehab and was cleared by the end of July, which is insane. Didn't get any preseason snaps, 3 snaps. I don't count that. Wasn't practicing a ton. And he's played in every game. It's just going to take him some time. We might not see the old Trey Hopkins for half the season because that's a huge injury to come back from. And years ago, I was talking to Joe Walter, former Bengals offensive lineman, played 13 years for the Bengals, on Sunday before the game. And he was like, yeah, when I had ACLs and tore my ACL, it was in December. And I didn't come back until the end of September, and that was to practice. Now, modern medicine and everything like that, but it takes time for an offensive lineman to have confidence in that leg. I think he's slowly working his way back. So, yeah, we'll see about him. Jacob, I asked about Khalid Kareem last week, and it didn't sound optimistic. I will ask Zac Taylor again this week and see. But, yeah, you're right. I think he's still a little ways away from potentially being back on the field, which stinks because I thought he played pretty well last year as a rookie. You want him to build off that, and maybe he could become a part of the Bengals pass rush, certainly their rotation at defensive end. The Bengals haven't scored 40 or more points since week 16 of 2013, the longest drought in the NFL. First off, Homer Simpson. Look at that. I'm rocking the Homer shirt. So let's put Homer up there. But yeah, I didn't know that, honestly, Homer, to be quite frank with you. It's not like I looked that up. Here's what I will say. They should easily top the 40-point mark this year multiple times. And I'll say it again, multiple times. Too many weapons, too much talent, have the quarterback to do it that can lead the offense like that. So we'll see. But if by the end of the year, they haven't gotten into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes or gotten into a shootout with Lamar Jackson where he doesn't just run all over them and beat their brains in 40-7. Like these games against the Ravens, yeah, Lamar might get 40, but the Bengals should get 38 or 44. And it should go back and forth. The same thing goes with the Browns. If the offense goes off, or the Chargers or teams like that, if opponents' offenses go off, the Bengals should be able to compete with them. The top offenses. That's the standard. That's why you draft Jamar Chase. That's why they brought in Zac Taylor. All of that. So that is my expectation. I came into the year expecting them to flirt with that 30 points per game mark. They're nowhere damn near it. They're a touchdown away from it. It's unacceptable. Needs to change. I'm honestly, if you would have told me that the offense would average 23 points a game, I would be like, oh man. After 5 weeks, I'd be like, they're probably 1-4. So the fact that they're 3-2 is good. That means the defense is better than I expected, and they've been able to overcome it. It needs to change. If they're going to make a playoff run and get to where people want them to go, it certainly needs to change. Honest Fan says, Darius Hodge, play him. Sam Hubbard and Wyatt Ray are giving us nothing on pass rushing. You might have to see him. You might have to get him. And he was inactive last, against the Packers. But yeah, maybe this is the week where you get him on the field and just put him on the outside linebacker and have him rush. I certainly think there are ways they can generate pressure. And during the Green Bay game, there were a couple times where I'm like, okay, can you stop rushing 4? Like, you have to bring a little more heat. There was a couple times because the Packers, for as good as the defense played, and they held the Packers to field goals and field goal attempts, the Packers scored on 5 straight drives at one point. They scored on their final, 3 drives of the first half and second, or the first 2 or 3 drives of the second half. It was something like that, first half and second half, where it was like 5 or 6 straight drives where they were getting some kind of points. And that just puts so much pressure on an offense that's been inconsistent. And they need to find a way to generate more of a pass rush, especially this week against a guy like Jared Goff early. Because if you hit Jared Goff and you jump on the Lions, you should be fine. If you let them hang around like the Vikings did, well, then you're going to be maybe not in trouble, but you're going to have to maybe squeak out a win. And look, let's be honest. The Lions still play hard, and they've been in a lot of games this year. You don't want to let them hang around. You want to kick their head in early, bite their kneecaps off, and keep it moving. I hope you guys got that reference. Let's keep speaking of keep it moving, let's keep it going here when it comes to live chat. Carson says, how about Waynes? Yeah, we talked about him, Carson, at the top. It's disappointing. Once this loads, we'll put it up on the channel. I spent about 5 minutes talking about Waynes at the top of the show here. Is Taylor going to be conservative or aggressive on offense? He needs to make up his mind. Yeah, it is kind of a 180, right, from the Vikings game, where he goes for it, 4th and 1 on the 30. And afterwards, he's like, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And look, the 4th and 1 on the 30 when you're up 2 scores is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. Punt it. Your defense was balling. There's no reason to, allow Minnesota to get back into it. That being said, look around the league. The Chargers, they're going for it. Brandon Staley's like, yeah, we're going for it. You know why? Because we got Justin Herbert and a bunch of weapons. That's what I would do if I had Joe Burrow and a bunch of weapons, is I would be aggressive. And does that mean going for it on 4th and 2 instead of kicking a 57-yard field goal? Maybe. And the Bengals should have a play that can always get 4th and 2. It's not always, not always going to go your way. 9 times out of 10, they should be able to find a play that can convert, especially against the Packers defense that isn't good right now. Short-handed, they're missing their best corner, and you should have been able to figure out a way to handle business there. Let's see here. What's on the hoodie? I already showed you, I think, but either way, look at that. There we go, Matt. There we go. Simpsons up. Greatest cartoon of all time. Some of you people might not even watch The Simpsons. You're too damn young, but it's what I grew up with. So, all right. Tom Brady and the Bucs didn't put it together till week 8. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, with Antonio Brown, who was new, Tom Brady, who was new, no off season, Brady adjusting to a new coach, a new offense, and he admitted he didn't even really know the offense. All right, now let's look at the Bengals. Jamar Chase is the only new piece. That's it. And guess what? He's been their best player on offense. Outside of Burrow, I guess you'd say Burrow, right? But that's the part of it. They had a preseason. Burrow's coming off the injury, but he's playing pretty well. But this offense isn't. And it's just stagnant. And that can't happen. There's time to figure it out, but I don't think it's apples to, cantaloupes when it comes to comparing it to Tom Brady. I don't get this question. When do we get a real left tackle? Rickster Trickster, this must be a trick, my man. Jonah Williams has been good this year. I don't know what you need. I don't know what else you need to see from him. He's been good. Has limited opposing defensive ends pressure. What was, I think, first in the NFL as far as lowest pressures given up going into week 5 against the Packers. And yeah, he got beat. I think he got beat once where it was pretty obvious he got beat, where he just got pushed back into Burrow. But I can't remember a ton where he got crushed. Either way, I think he's the left tackle, and I think he's a pretty damn good left tackle. I don't really worry about that. I worry about the interior of this offensive line, and specifically center and right guard. All right, Joshua, next question. What do you think is the reason Zac can't get this offense to its full potential? Well, let's be honest, Joshua. Most coaches would give up their left arm if they're an offensive-minded coach, and they could have Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and Auden Tate as their fourth receiver. Mike Thomas is their fifth receiver. Samaje Perine and Chris Evans behind those guys. Oh, the offensive line isn't that great. I still think a lot of offensive coaches would be like, sign me up, or even defensive coaches for that matter. And I'm talking about the head coaching spot. He better get him on track, because if not, they're not going to win enough games for him to come back. Like, if the offense is what gets – think about this. Say this out loud. If the Bengals offense is what prevents this team from making a playoff run, well, then something has to change. You ain't moving on from the offensive coordinator and Brian Callahan, because he's not the one calling plays. And I know there are some that are going to say, well, maybe Zac should stop calling plays. I get it. I do. But this is a make or break year for Zac Taylor. And I think back to Hugh Jackson when he was with the Browns. The thing he regretted most in year 3 is that he gave up the play calling to Todd Haley. And that was a big regret. And I'm not saying that Zac Taylor called Hugh Jackson and asked for advice, but if I'm an offensive coach and I know I'm on the hot seat and I know that, hey, this is something that I'm either going to go down with or I'm going to find a way to make it work, it would be hard to give up the play calling. That being said, could that make the Bengals better? Maybe, but it's not like Brian Callahan's ever called plays. So is it going to really make them that much better? Or are you going to have to go through Brian Callahan growing pains? Because if you do, well, ain't nobody got time for that. No one's got time for Brian Callahan to figure it out. He didn't call plays in the preseason because they were so limited with what the time they had. It's 3 preseason games, not many reps for the ones. What was it? 3 total reps for the ones. And you're trying to get Jamar Chase acclimated and all that stuff. Zac was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to call the plays. So it's one of those things. We need the short yardage package fixed. Yeah, let's talk about that, Tyrone. I think that's a good thing to bring up, because when it comes to getting off to a fast start, it's 3rd and inches to start the game, the Bengals' first drive against the Packers, and it's a quarterback sneak. Now, a lot of people would be okay with the quarterback sneak. I wonder, and just say this out loud, what did I say a few minutes ago was the weak part of the Bengals' offensive line? It wasn't the tackles. I just defended Jonah Williams. I praised Riley Reif probably 10 minutes ago. It's the interior. So I love the quarterback sneak, especially with a guy like Tom Brady, who's one of the best, if not the best quarterback sneaker ever. It's not a word, but it is on Cincinnati Bengals talk. Burrow's coming off of an injury. It's not like he's great at it, I don't think. And it's 3rd and short, and you want to go, like, isn't that the time to hand it to Mixon? Or maybe you do a little play action there, or maybe you do something. So to me, that was one where I was like, normally I wouldn't care about the quarterback sneak, but you're literally running behind your quarterback behind the worst part of your offensive line. And it was specifically behind Jackson Carman, I believe, on the right side, Jackson Carman and Trey Hopkins. It's tough. It's a tough one. And so, yeah, plays like that could be the difference between getting off to a hot start and not getting off to a hot start, which they need to fix. Yeah. What do you think Joe saw in that interception in overtime looked like he and Boyd weren't on the same page? Clearly they weren't. And honestly, I think it was Burrow's fault, to be honest. The way everyone's talked about it. Now, I'll think I'll be able to talk to Joe tomorrow and ask him about it, along with the rest of the Cincinnati media. He obviously didn't talk after the game because of the throat scare, but he is okay, and he's expected to play this week. So that should mean that we hear from Burrow, and we can ask him what he saw on that play. But I think it was one of those where he's like, well, shit, I shouldn't have threw that, and it's on Burrow. Because normally Boyd and Burrow are like on the same wavelength. They read each other's body language because it's a choice route, and Boyd runs a lot of those choice routes, and he went one way, Burrow went the other, and clearly it looked awful and put the Packers in position, and the Packers should have won the game there. They didn't, but they should have. Let's see here. Do you think we need to sign another cornerback? They did to the practice squad. I think they're going to kind of hang tight. They feel good about Eli Apple and Darius Phillips being the 3rd and 4th guys. So yeah, it's one of those one of those things where it's next man up, as they'll say. And Eli Apple, for as bad as he was in the first couple of weeks, I thought his play, he's gotten better. And it's expected. He didn't really play much in the preseason. He's with a new team, hasn't had a great track record in the NFL. But if he continues to play better and better, can he be a third corner along with Phillips and they can kind of split reps? I think there's a chance at that. But you certainly want Waynes to get back sooner rather than later if possible. This is one I think we're going to cover the next couple of weeks. Midseason trade for a veteran right guard and or cornerback for a future first or second rounder. Is it win now mode or continue drafting in the rebuild? If you can get like a star right guard, I say you do it. Like if, or left guard for that matter, just star guard. Like if Brandon Scherff is available before the deadline from Washington, and I'm just throwing out a name, I know he's on the franchise tag. That's a guy you might want to trade a draft pick for. And, hopefully you get him for a second, not a first. I'd want to keep that first. He's going to be a free agent this offseason, so you'd have to make up your mind, hey, we're going to pay him, and that's what we're going to do. But someone like that, then, yeah, I'd be willing to. But, I'm not overpaying for an average guard just to kind of fill that hole, and that's kind of the balance is how many great players can you get? Because I'm not giving up a first or a second round pick if you're not getting someone great. As far as cornerback goes, I don't think they will. And, unless there's someone that emerges. But to me, I was lukewarm on, them potentially going after Gilmore, and I don't think they were really in on him. And outside of that, who would they go after? How many, high-end cornerbacks are there out there? To me, I think edge would be a bigger need. If you could find a rotational edge, not the star edge, you're not going to find one of them, but just someone that can help your pass rush, that's certainly someone or certainly something that you could address. Do you think Lou needs to bring more Hilton blitzes? Hopefully, because, Mike Hilton was brought here for that, right? To blitz, to make plays, to tackle well in the cornerback spot or in the nickelback spot right there. And he's made some plays for sure. But he wasn't brought in to cover guys, right? No one's mistaking Mike Hilton for Darrelle Revis or some elite slot cover corner. No one. And I think he would admit that. I'm not saying he's bad in coverage, but he's certainly not, a world beater. And so that's something that you need to do. If you're not going to utilize him as a blitzer, that's part of his main strength. And they've brought him, but I would expect to see more of him as the season goes on. Let's see. The motto is usually the defense needs to help the offense. Now it's the offense needs to help the defense. The defense is playing too much and doing too much while the offense is doing too little. No doubt. Can't say it better. Can't say it better than that. I agree. And that's a huge issue when it comes to where I saw this team offensively versus defensively. I thought the offense was going to be the strength. I thought the defense was going to be a borderline weakness, especially in a game like Sunday against Aaron Rodgers, right? I thought Aaron Rodgers and the Packers were going to drop 30-plus. And if the Bengals had gotten there, I was going to give them a puncher's chance. They didn't get there on offense, but the defense did their job, and it still wasn't enough. They need to moving forward. I agree with that. Is this not? There we go. Come on. T. Higgins just returned from injury. Tyler Boyd was doubled most of the game. I think it's coming soon. Yeah, well, it needs to happen now. Victor, this isn't about like Mixon's dinged up and Higgins was missed 2 games and Boyd was doubled. Well, I don't care. That's why you drafted Chase. So maybe Sunday should have been the game where Chase got 15 targets and 3 more go balls or 2 more slants and a screen. He had 13, or where he ends up with 13 targets and 206 yards. Maybe that's the case. But the reason you have all these weapons is so if Mixon gets dinged up or T. Higgins can't play or Tyler Boyd's doubled, which was a very unique idea by the Packers, and it worked. It did slow down Boyd for sure and limited his effectiveness in the game. Not necessarily Boyd's fault because you go elsewhere if you're Burrow, but just something worth pointing out. But that's why you draft Chase. That's why you assemble this skilled group of players. So if the defense does this or that or that or this guy's dinged up or this guy's injured, it doesn't matter. You could still go because you got Burrow and you have a downfield threat in Chase. You have a downfield threat in T, and you have guys that can pick up the slack. So no, I'm not giving them an excuse. I think they need to score more points, and I think that's pretty fair. All right, let's get to a positive one here. Elijah, pleasantly surprised with Lou Anarumo in the defense this year. I'd love to hear what you think the difference for defensive play calling is this year. I think there's a clear comfort in the guys that are on the field where, like, Lou Anarumo clearly didn't buy into Carlos Dunlap and vice versa, right? There were guys that the first 2 years that the Bengals had to play, that they had to use. They had a bunch of injuries on the defensive line last year, so it's tough. But even William Jackson, right? Clearly the coaching staff and William Jackson weren't on the same wavelength, and that's fair to say. Well, Mike Hilton is. Chidobe Awuzie is. Jesse Bates is. Von Bell is. Logan Wilson is. And so do they have flaws? Absolutely, they do on defense. But I think Lou believes in his guys and that they're going to execute what he's, preaching and teaching. And then the other thing is, defensive line wise, I think you're seeing more, stunts, twists, I don't even want to call it creativity, but more schematic ways of getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks and or blowing up run plays. Let's see. What do you think the chances are that the Bengals win the division? I'm fairly confident they make the playoffs. Chances of winning the division, I don't think they're that great, honestly. Now, I might be dead wrong on that, but the Browns, talent-wise, probably slightly ahead of the Bengals, even though things are weird in Cleveland. And I do think you can score on them if this offense reaches its full potential. And if you do that, you got a puncher's chance. And I think the Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield rivalry is legit after those 2 games last year where they went blow for blow in both games. But the Ravens, to me, from the get-go, and I've said this on Cleveland radio when I've done appearances up there, certainly I'll say it now. I think that the Ravens are the favorites in the division, and it's not because they're at the top of the division right now. I thought they were a couple of weeks ago. I just think when you look at that coach, you look at that quarterback, you look at that defense, until someone dethrones them, that's who I'm picking. And I'm not saying the Bengals can't. I just think that that's where they're at right now. Greg asks, is there any news on Pirine or Carmen? Nope. They're still on the COVID-19 reserve list. I would not expect them back this week. Things could change. It just doesn't seem likely. The Bengals also signed Evander Holyfield's son, Elijah Holyfield, running back out of Georgia. They signed him to the practice squad today, which is a sign that Travion Williams could get the bump up. And with Joe Mixon limited, you could see Williams maybe get a little run on offense alongside Chris Evans this week. Let's keep going here. Oh, I finally made it to all the dog when Finn made all the dog comments. So we're a little behind. I'm catching up here. Let's see. Would you give up a second round and a few complimentary picks to give up Travis Kelce? I bet Casey will start doing so. Yeah, I will give up the whole draft for Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes. How's that? Like, no, Kelce ain't available, and they're not dumping soon. That's not happening. And I wouldn't be shocked. People lose their minds early. Don't be shocked if the Kansas City Chiefs still win that division. I know it doesn't look good right now. Would not be shocked at all. All right, let's keep things going here. Oh, this is a good one. Do you see Joe Brady getting a head coaching job before he takes a new offensive coordinator role? Yes, I don't think he's going to take another offensive coordinator role. One, the lateral movement, he would either have to get fired or his contract would have to run out in Carolina for him to make a lateral move like that. But no, I certainly think that he could be a head coach, especially if that Carolina Panthers offense continues to play well, could be a head coach next year. And he said it would be nice to get to a point where Zach can be the coach and let someone else call plays. I think that would be Brian Callahan. And I already talked about that, especially in season. If you make that kind of change, it sounds good, right? At the same time, Callahan has never called offensive plays before. So there could be some growing pains there. Deontay Smith is going to start. That's all that's going on. Yeah, as far as at right guard, that is all that's going on right now. There's no doubt about that, as long as Jackson Carman is on the COVID-19 reserve list. This just made me laugh. Do you think Zac Taylor could find rhythm in a jazz club? Someone else needs to call plays. I actually asked him about his dancing ability, which goes in line with rhythm, and he didn't really offer much. I asked him last week. Look, he's trying to figure it out. it could start this week. If anything, I'll say this, because looking back, the teams I enjoyed watching the most were those Chad Johnson teams from 2003. Really, 02 is when Chad exploded, but 2003 to 2007, where it was really fun. And there were a lot of times where that offense was just so up and down, so inconsistent. And so it's tough. It is hard. I just think that this team needs to have an elite offense if they're going to, reach their potential this season. Let Joe cook. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that. At some point, you're going to have to, especially with the game on the line. I would always let him cook. Answered this earlier. Do we think Waynes is going to be gone next year? Unless he has a great second half of the season, yes, they could release him for only a $5 million cap hit. So that's certainly something that could happen. Chris Evans, where do you think the Chris Evans question is, Andrew? There we go. Wyatt Brown. Why can't they utilize Chris Evans? I get it, Chris Evans. Come here. Come here, Finn. Finn wants to say hi again. Come on. Get up. Come here. Come on. Oh, he just wants some camera time. All right, so Chris Evans. Look in the camera, bud. Say hi. Hey, look over there. There we go. There we go. No, Chris Evans is a baller. And those that have, watched this channel, saw me, talk about him on Locked On Bengals, you should subscribe to that as well. Or, writing about him. He's an elite pass catcher, great route runner, has the size you look for. So I think he's ready for a bigger role. It's just the pass blocking part of it that I don't know about and that I'm kind of concerned about just because you don't know. And until you get the experience, you're not going to know. And I asked Brian Callahan that, last week, and he said the exact same thing. They know a little bit from practice and preseason, but that's about it. So, who knows? But I agree. Talent-wise, pass catching-wise, offensive weapon-wise, he's capable of contributing right now. Didn't I just talk about Darius Hodge? Come on, honest fan. I talked about Darius Hodge. Chill out. Not leaving this live stream until he talks about Darius Hodge. Hey, he may make an impact for sure. We'll see. Yeah, Andrew says we're probably a half hour behind on comments. So I'll move up and then I'll move back. How about that? We'll do it that way. Let's go to all the new messages. If you're in and I haven't answered your question, slowly put them in here and we'll get them. Let's see. Is your dog a yellow lab? No, he's actually a mini golden doodle. He just got shaved because he had some mats, so he kind of looks like that. Hey man, hang out. You're the star right now. You're the star of the show. You might as well hang out and continue to be the star of the show here. Let's see. Is there an Evan McPherson debate going on in the chat right now? He did make 2 winning field goals for us. Yeah, Evan McPherson's going to be fine. So I'll just address. Evan McPherson is going to be fine. I loved his temperament after the game. Was, upset about it, but wasn't like distraught about it where it's going to impact his next kick. And I think that's where you need to be. Just like when Joe Burrow threw that interception in overtime. Just like, when he last year in his debut flipped the ball to Melvin Ingram on a ridiculous interception that kind of cost the Bengals the game. What happened the very next drive? I think that's what's going to happen with Evan McPherson is he's going to respond well because he's got that type of temperament. The same way Jamar Chase responded to drops the way he did. Yeah, no, Kenneth, I agree with you. Like, this is a prove it year for Zach. Like, he's got to show he can win and win games with the talent he has. And I think now that the defense is better than a lot of people expected, the bar is higher. My minimum for the Bengals was 7 wins going into the year. I think it's higher now because Burrow looks pretty much like Burrow pre-injury. For the most part, there's little things, but the deep ball is better. Chase is a star. You have all those weapons, and the defense is better than you thought. So I think expectations, it's fair for those to go up. Evans needs more touches. Agree with that. Like I said, you can get him involved. Literally running the ball on third down from 60-plus yards, like what? You must have some faith in McPherson. That part of it is ridiculous. I would have thrown it, but I don't disagree with having faith in McPherson. All right, one more, Finn, and then I'll let you down. How do you think Chase's numbers will look by the end of the season on a record-setting pace thus far with the team with potential for more offensive output. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a beast. I think he's going to finish with double-digit touchdowns, right? He's already got 5, so that's not that much of a take. But I think that's going to slow down a little, just naturally touchdowns do. So I would say, if I had to guess, 1,350 yards, 75 receptions, and that means that his yards dip a bit, but you just never know. And 11 or 12 touchdowns. I think that's kind of where I would put it, as kind of a realistic area there of where they're going to be. What do you think about Gardner from the Bearcats? You want to get down again? Okay, go ahead. I told you one more. Good boy. The Bengals should consider drafting him, and if Gardner, if he plays well for the rest of the year like he has, and then tests well, he might not be there when the Bengals are drafting. Like that's part of it. Everyone talks about the Stingley kid from LSU, but Gardner has been rock solid, locked down. And, if they get into the college football playoff, for example, and gets to face Bama receivers or gets to face, high end, top first round receivers and has a good showing, that dude could fly up draft boards, especially, like I said, if he tests well. So yeah, I certainly think he's in the mix there. Can we call Chase a top 10 receiver? Ooh. I don't think he's there yet, because part of being a top 10 receiver is being consistent and doing it week in and week out. So he's getting there. He is. And he's on his way, but we haven't seen enough yet. And that's not his fault. He's done everything he could do in 5 games. It's just you need to do more if you're going to be considered a top 10 receiver. There's a ton of receivers in this, again, that are really, really good. So that's part of it. Y'all need to take off the rose-colored glasses. No reason why they should have lost that game. I agree they shouldn't have lost that game. I've been pretty critical, I think, of the team. Hey, I'm taking this as a compliment, man, because my dog is cute. So you want to tell me I look like him or vice versa? Well, then sign me up, because it just means we're a good-looking family, my man. All right, let's keep going. What is the best outlook from the Packers game? I mean, the best outlook would be they went toe-to-toe with a team that's lost 7 games in 2 years, with a team that's been to back-to-back NFC championship games, and you could argue they should have won despite the offense underperforming and despite the defense giving up scores on 5 straight drives. That would be and they lost the turnover battle, by the way, and they still had a chance to win. So that would be the rose-colored glasses, really optimistic approach. And I think there are a lot of national media that are viewing it that way, because they didn't expect the Bengals to be as close as they did in that game on Sunday. Let's see here. Autumn, I actually haven't read it yet. And I know it's something I'm going to read later today. I've been working most of the day. So it's one of those things where I bookmark these articles. I try to get to them as soon as I can. Haven't read it yet, but I certainly think that the offense needs to spruce things up a bit to maximize Joe Burrow. All right, we got a few more minutes. We're going to get to your questions. So if you have any good questions, if you've been saving them, then let's dive in here, because we're only going to stay on for a few more minutes here. How do you think Deontay Smith will perform? Good question. And let's dive into that, because I think there's a very, I'm not going to say likely scenario, but it's a realistic scenario that Deontay Smith is better than Jackson Carman at right guard. He's better in the preseason, impressed the coaches, has longer arms, which is going to help him when he does lose. He's going to keep these, especially these bigger defensive tackles, away from his body. And by all accounts, has always had this elite high-end work ethic that Carman kind of adopted midway through camp, right? He came into camp, he was a little overweight, but he's done everything the coaching staff has asked from him. But if Deontay Smith has done that from day one, then it could give him an edge. Now, the only concern is that the right guard spot is something we haven't seen Smith play. He hasn't lined up at right guard throughout camp. Didn't see him there in the preseason. Part of that was because he missed the week 2 of the preseason. So we will see. What advice did Aaron Rodgers give Joe Burrow? Slide. And you can read the quote and watch the clip. It's more than just slide. Just check it out at allbengals.com. Go there. You can watch the clip and read the quotes. It's the main story, top story on the page. Let's see here. What's better, tacos or pizza? Well, Anthony, what's today? It's Tuesday. You know what that means? That means naturally I had leftover pizza for lunch instead of tacos, which means, damn it, I need to go get some tacos for Taco Tuesday. Thanks for reminding me. If I had to pick one, it's close. Probably tacos. A high-end taco bar. Ooh, baby. Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm gonna make Andrew buy me some tacos here with all the money he makes from Cincinnati Bengals talk. All right. There we go. All right. Strawberry ice, my man. Well, that isn't the question. I think I clicked too early. Where's your question, Strawberry? I saw it here somewhere. Andrew's talking to me in my headphones. I know I don't see it, but either way, Strawberry feels like that the Bengals are going to be angry and come out motivated against the Lions. I damn sure hope so. I don't want to play with the Lions. I don't want to mess with a Dan Campbell team that has been this close to winning games. Look, the Bengals fans, you guys know how it's like when you're 0-4, 0-5, looking for a win, and you play this desperate team that's at home, that's dealing with some injuries. They're still capable of doing enough. And so, yeah, you can't play with your food here if you're the Bengals. You got to go in. You got to eat the damn taco on Taco Tuesday. You got to focus on Wednesday, handle business Thursday, Friday, and go and get your second road win of the season. And, if they can do that early, then they should be able to cruise. If not, then it could be another squeaker, another, hey, Evan, save us game, which, you don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Seen more Drew Sample than Uzama. Why? That's not true. You saw more Drew Sample on Sunday than we've seen, but not more than Uzama. That being said, man, Drew Sample looked awful the other day. He's not having a good year so far. And so it's not good. Not good for him, put it that way. And that's another area. In fact, I have an idea that I'm going to do for a later video. This is why you should subscribe to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm going to write it down right now. I'm going to have Andrew get the thumbnail ready. And that Drew Sample question is what spurred that. Boom. All right. Why don't the Bengals do anything schematically on offense to burn aggressive pass rushing? Or do they scheme or to scheme wide receivers open? They do. They do. Now, it hasn't been the best, especially the wide receivers open part of it. Like a lot of Jamar Chase, some of it's, schemed open, but like that 70-yarder, that's all Jamar and Joe just making a play. And so those are bonus. That's extra credit. I said this on Locked On Bengals earlier today on today's show. All those plays at the end of the half, that to me is kind of like extra credit where these guys are just out-talenting the other team. Early on in the games, that's when you got to out-scheme the other team. And then down the stretch is when you're going to have to out-scheme the other team. And they did that against Jacksonville. And part of that was because Joe's like, hey, man, you can't zero me, and throws the screen to Uzama. So that's him pulling the trigger. But this coaching staff needs to get it together specifically on offense. There's no doubt about that. What's the record cutoff? Phil, coming in, I thought the minimum of 7-10. I think that number is probably a bit higher now with the offense struggling like it is. Because if the defense continues to play this way and they only get the 7-10, then it's going to feel like the offense let them down. All right, let's see. All right, so here's the Strawberry one that you're talking about. Yeah, I think there's a chance they destroy the Lions. Strawberry. Shout out to him, by the way. Strawberry Ice, the Iceman. I'm gonna have to check out Top Gun after this, a movie that Joe Burrow has never seen. Why you guys got to be mean? I didn't say that. I just said he struggled. Now, that's it. I'm not going to be any mean. The old school Seapaw helmet, I like more than – you like this, man? Yeah, I like it a lot too. Yeah, go Bearcats. Go Bearcats. Hopefully we're talking about them in the college football playoff this year. They just got to handle business. There are some defensive ends out there that could be a potential target at the deadline. All right, let's see. Do you see Sunday as big of a trap game as I do? Says Bengals Genius. It's certainly potentially a trap game, but this team isn't good enough. They're not, they've won 9 games in 3 years. That's not good enough to have trap games, but I thought the Jags game was sort of a trap game, and damn it, they almost lost it. So yeah, I agree. I think it is. And they're going to have to show that they're mature enough, that they're disciplined enough handle business in that way. Is there a way, and this will be the final one today. Cam Sample was impressive, by the way, on Sunday. Is there a way to cut down on miscommunications? I'm tired of excuses. Damn it, I am too, because the biggest hit Joe Burrow took on Sunday wasn't even the one everyone remembers. It was the one at the end of the first quarter where he throws deep to Chase on, I think, 3rd and 3. The ball hit the defender in the helmet. It wasn't the worst throw in the world, but it wasn't good enough. If he had led Chase, it would have been a touchdown. Chase is just amazing right now. And the problem is freaking the offensive line. It was just a complete breakdown. And that can't happen because you have a free rusher, hits Burrow right in the knee. And honestly, that was a huge hit. And he was a little gimpy afterwards. And whether it affected him or not, I'm not sure. But that cannot happen. And so that was a huge concern for me, because once that happened, it just seemed like the offense was a little stagnant, gimpy for Burrow. And then obviously he took another hit later in the game. But I'm tired of the free rushers, just coming in and just crushing Burrow. Like, it cannot happen. And I don't know who's was at fault. It might have been Trey Hopkins, might have been Jackson Carman, might have been Joe Burrow for not seeing, a free runner. Cannot happen anymore. Didn't happen to Aaron Rodgers, right? Now, I don't think it happened the week prior. Did it happen to Trevor Lawrence, where it's just like, no, it didn't, where he's hit in the knee and it looks like his knee is going to crumble into 8 different pieces. It reminded me of the Carson injury in 2005, where he's thrown a deep ball and he gets hit. And thank goodness that was not the case. Burrow wasn't hurt. So, all right. If you're new, I say it all the time. Hit subscribe, hit the bell. If you've been here and you're subscribed but you haven't hit the bell so you can join us for every live chat, so you can get notified every time we post the video. We're going to have a ton this week. I already have another idea that I just wrote down a few minutes ago. These were a lot of fun. You got to meet my dog, Finn. Normally he's all curly. So you've seen like skinny Finn. Normally he's all curly. He's staring at me right now like, man, I can't believe you just put me on your live stream. Well, now you're famous, Finn. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and maybe grab a Simpsons hoodie or something like that. And we'll do this live chat again soon. And thanks for all the questions. Shout out to Andrew Miller for casually making comments in the background. And until next time, James Rapien signing off from Rapien Manor.